The most expensive thing that happened on February 28th, 2026 won't show up on most people's bank statements until October, maybe November. And by then, most people will have completely forgotten what caused it. That's not a metaphor, that's the actual timeline. What started as a military strike on Iran has set off 5 separate economic shocks moving toward your wallet on 5 different timelines, each one bigger than the last, each one disguised as something completely unrelated by the time it lands. Right now, most people are staring at the gas station sign, doing the mental math, filing it under annoying but manageable, and moving on. That filing is wrong, and the cost of getting it wrong isn't dramatic. It's quiet. It's a grocery bill that keeps creeping up with no obvious explanation. A summer flight that somehow doubled. A mortgage rate that was supposed to come down and didn't. A credit card balance that never quite shrinks. My name is Nick, and I spend too much time doing math that other people find depressing. Today I'm going to show you all 5 waves, when each one hits, and exactly what to do before they arrive, not after. Let's rewind quickly because the context is the whole story. On February 27th, Oman's foreign minister announced a breakthrough in US-Iran nuclear negotiations. Active talks progress. One day later, February 28th, the US and Israel launched coordinated airstrikes across Iran. Operation Epic Fury. The timing, right in the middle of live diplomatic negotiations, is going to be debated by historians for decades. That's their problem. Our problem is what happened in the 26 days since. Iran retaliated hard. Ballistic missiles and drones hit US military bases across 6 Gulf nations. Oil infrastructure took damage. And by March 4th, Iran declared the Strait of Hormuz, a 21-mile bottleneck that carries roughly 20% of the world's seaborne oil supply, effectively closed. By March 16th, approximately 0 commercial vessels had transited it in a 24-hour window. Normal traffic is 130 ships per day. The IEA called this the single largest energy supply disruption ever recorded, larger than the 1973 OPEC embargo and the 1979 Iranian Revolution shock combined. They released 400 million barrels from emergency reserves, the largest release in the agency's history. That's not a routine adjustment, that's a fire extinguisher. Brent crude went from $71 per barrel to a peak near $120 in weeks. It's pulled back to around $100 on ceasefire signals. But if this drags beyond 6 weeks, analysts project $150 per barrel is on the table. The gas price you're staring at, $3.96 national average, up from $2.94 at the start of this month, is wave 1. But this isn't one price spike, it's 5. Rolling toward your wallet on different timelines, each disguised as something unrelated by the time it lands. To make this concrete, I want to follow 2 households through all 5 waves. Maya, 31, kindergarten teacher, $58,000 salary, $3,400 in savings, investing $200 a month. And Ryan and Jess, logistics and hospital work, combined $94,000, $2,100 in savings, $3,800 on a credit card at 22% interest. Same city, same grocery store, same news cycle. 2 completely different outcomes. Not because of income, not because of luck, but because of what they did in March 2026. Let's go through the waves. Wave 1, gas, the one you can already see. The national average hit $3.96 per gallon this week, up $1.02 in under a month. California is at $5.81. Diesel, the fuel that moves literally everything you buy, hit $5.37 per gallon nationally, a 47% increase from pre-war levels. Here's why diesel matters more than the gas you put in your car. Diesel powers the 18-wheelers, the refrigerated trucks, the farm equipment, the entire physical supply chain. Every cent diesel goes up, there is a direct and documented transmission into the cost of the things it moves. A $1 per gallon increase in gas prices removes roughly $150 billion in annual consumer spending from the economy. The average household is now looking at $748 in additional fuel costs this year. For Maya, this is $47 more per month on her commute. She stopped driving through the Starbucks on Tatum on her way to school. It's $6.80, and she's made her peace with that. For Ryan and Jess, it's the same $47. They haven't changed anything yet because it feels manageable, and it is on its own. The problem is it's not on its own. Here's what not on its own actually looks like. It's checking your bank account on a Thursday and noticing it's lower than it should be, doing the mental math, and coming up short on an explanation. That vague sense that money is moving faster than it used to, but nothing specific to point at. That feeling isn't paranoia. That's wave one doing exactly what it was always going to do. Quietly in the background before the real waves land. Wave two, groceries, 30 to 60 days away. This one's already in motion. You just can't see it yet. Diesel doesn't just move cars, it moves food. Refrigerated trucks deliver everything perishable on a schedule that doesn't allow for stockpiling. You cannot warehouse strawberries for 6 months while you wait for fuel costs to stabilize. When diesel rises by $1 per gallon, freight carriers pass 60 to 80% of that increase through within 30 to 60 days via fuel surcharges that update weekly. The transmission is fast, documented, and already started. Before this conflict, grocery prices were rising 2.4% per year. Economists now project CPI inflation climbing to 4.4% in coming months. Beef and veal were already projected up 5.5 to 9.4% in 2026. Coffee 5.2%, sugar 6.7%. Now layer a 47% diesel spike on top of all of that. Retailers will absorb what they can, but they've been absorbing tariff costs for a year and the cushion is gone. When it breaks, prices catch up fast. For Maya, her $340 monthly grocery bill is about to become $380, maybe $410. She started batch cooking on Sundays and cut the meal kit subscription she was paying $72 a month for, which honestly she should have done a year ago, but that's a different video. For Ryan and Jess, this wave is going to feel like a mystery. They'll stand at the checkout in May, their total $55 higher than expected, and wonder if they're somehow buying more food. They're not buying more food. So if you're wondering why your ground beef is going to cost more in May, and the answer is it was decided in a Persian Gulf military operation you had absolutely no vote on. Welcome to the global supply chain. It's extremely efficient until it isn't. Wave 3, fertilizer, the invisible timer set for October. This is the wave almost nobody is connecting, and it's the one that should genuinely concern you, because by the time you feel it, you'll have completely forgotten what caused it. Most people don't know this. Natural gas is the primary raw material for nitrogen fertilizer. Fossil fuels account for 70 to 90% of the cost of producing ammonia and urea, what farmers put in the ground to grow basically everything. And roughly a third of the world's seaborne fertilizer trade passes through the Strait of Hormuz, which is closed. Within the first week of the conflict, high Gulf producers declared force majeure and halted exports. Granular urea jumped 50% in weeks. At the New Orleans import hub, prices rose 32% in a single week. In parts of the Midwest, fertilizer retailers have stopped quoting prices, not because the market is stable, but because they can't guarantee delivery. Here's the timing issue. Spring 2026 planting is happening right now. The decisions farmers are making this month determine the fall harvest. You won't feel this wave in April. You'll feel it in October. Standing in the produce aisle convinced you must be bad at budgeting. Nobody is going to announce this. There's no press conference scheduled for, "We regret to inform you that your August cookout will be melon-free." It just quietly happens, and by the time it does, February 28th will feel like ancient history. For Maya, this is the wave she can't fully protect against, but she knows it's coming, which means she won't be blindsided by it. She's already started looking at a chest freezer. For Ryan and Jess, it arrives completely out of nowhere. In October, they'll tell their friends groceries are crazy right now. Their friends will agree. Nobody will know why. I want to stop here for a second. Gas, groceries, fertilizer, Persian Gulf military operations. Is this actually going to affect you? Or is it one of those economic stories that's technically real but mostly affects other people? The first 3 waves hit everyone. There's no income level that insulates you from diesel-driven food inflation or a fertilizer shortage that shrinks your options at the produce section. But waves 4 and 5 are where the gap between people who prepared and people who didn't starts to open up, and it opens faster than most people expect. Wave 4, airfare. Your summer vacation already cost more. Jet fuel surged more than 60% after the strait closure. Fuel accounts for 25 to 33% of airline operating costs, the single largest expense. When that jumps 60% in 3 weeks, you have two options: absorb it and destroy your balance sheet, or pass it through to customers. Airlines are not historically known for their selfless absorption of costs. Analysts are now projecting 15 to 30% fare increases for summer 2026 travel, with June and July absorbing the biggest hit. Spirit Airlines fares went up 124% in a single week, which is alarming, but also a Spirit Airlines ticket went from something you'd pay $79 to suffer through to something you'd pay $176 to suffer through. At some point, the math stops making sense regardless of what oil is doing. Here's what's different about airline pricing versus groceries. Airlines bake fuel costs into their models months in advance. Those higher fares don't come back down fast even if oil drops tomorrow. The price you see today is almost certainly lower than next month. For Maya, this is why she called her mom. Book the July flight now before it gets worse. Her mom booked it, $287 round trip. She checked the same route yesterday. It's $341. For Ryan and Jess, they've been meaning to look into flights for a trip they've been talking about since December. They're going to have a bad time when they finally do. Wave 5, interest rates. The biggest one, nobody connected. Here's the one that's going to quietly cost you the most money because it doesn't show up as a line item. It shows up as a number that won't go down. At the start of 2026, markets were pricing in multiple Fed rate cuts this year. Lower mortgage rates, cheaper car loans, relief on those 22% credit card APRs. People were waiting for it, building plans around it. That expectation is now functionally dead. The Federal Reserve held rates at 3.50 to 3.75% at its March meeting. And here's the trap they're in. Higher oil prices push inflation up while also dragging down consumer spending and employment. The Fed's two jobs, keep prices stable, keep people employed, are now pointing in opposite directions. The Fed is essentially a doctor whose only two medicines both cause the exact side effect they're trying to treat. Jerome Powell acknowledged the bind himself at the March press conference. He did not look like a man who was having fun. What does this mean for your actual life? 30-year mortgage rates are sitting between 6.22 and 6.45%, up from 5.87% in February. Auto loan rates for good credit buyers are running around 7%. Average credit card APRs are 21 to 24%, and Americans are carrying $1.277 trillion in credit card debt at those rates. Recession probability is now sitting somewhere between 30 and 50%, depending on how long the strait stays disrupted. For Maya, the mortgage rate she was waiting to drop just moved the wrong direction again. She's frustrated, but she has savings earning 4.2%, no credit card debt, and she didn't panic sell her index funds. She's positioned to wait this out. For Ryan and Jess, that $3,800 credit card balance at 22% just became more expensive to carry. The refinancing window didn't close, but it got a lot smaller. Here's where most people lose real money. Research tracking over 1 million investor accounts found that the average equity investor has underperformed the S&P 500 for 15 consecutive years. The market kept performing. The investors kept underperforming. The gap, almost 850 basis points in 2024 alone, isn't explained by bad stock picks. It's explained by one behavior: selling during volatility and buying back in after recovery, which sounds insane out loud. But that's what the data shows for 15 years straight. Here's why doing that right now would be particularly expensive. And 7 of the 10 best trading days over a 20-year period occurred during bear markets. 6 of those happened within 2 weeks of the worst days. The recovery doesn't happen gradually. It happens in violent upswings clustered right next to the crashes. Missing just the 10 best trading days in each decade since 1930 would have turned a nearly 15,000% total return into 91%. Not a typo, 91%. The volatility that feels terrifying right now is exactly where long-term wealth gets built, by the people who stay in. Your nervous system evolved for a world where financial loss and physical survival were the same thing. It has not updated for index funds. Do not let it make this decision. Maya's $1,600 in index funds is down on paper right now. She looked at it once, closed the app, and went back to batch cooking on Sunday. Yeah, Ryan opened his 401k statement last week, felt sick, and has been avoiding it since. Both of them will be in the same position in 10 years, unless Ryan does something drastic in the next 90 days that locks in a loss he can't recover from. What you can actually do, starting this week, your emergency fund needs to be bigger, and it needs to earn something real. Nearly half of Americans can't cover a $1,000 emergency without going into debt. When your car needs $900 in brake work in the middle of a period where everything else is more expensive, the difference between having that money and not is the difference between an inconvenience and a credit card charge compounding at 22% for the next 8 months. High-yield savings accounts are paying 4.0 to 4.2% right now, 10 times the national average of 0.39%. With the Fed frozen on rate cuts, these rates aren't going anywhere soon. There is no reason not to do this today. If you're carrying high-interest credit card debt, attack it like the emergency it is. Paying off a card charging 22% is mathematically identical to earning a guaranteed 22% return, tax-free. You cannot buy that return anywhere. Every month you carry that balance through rising prices and frozen rates is a compounding tax on inaction. Attack it. Do not stop your investment contributions. Do not touch your existing investments. The instinct to wait, move to cash, and see how this plays out is the most expensive financial mistake you can make right now. Keep your automated contributions running. The shares you buy during this volatility will historically be among the best investments you ever made. The people who paused in 2020 at the bottom missed the fastest recovery in market history. They sat in cash watching the rebound happen without them, then bought back in at the top. Don't be that person. Set the contribution. Walk away. Let it run. If you're planning summer travel, book flights now. Not this weekend, today. The 15 to 30% increases analysts are projecting haven't fully landed yet. Maya's mom paid $287. That same flight is $341 and rising. Audit your energy exposure. Long commute in a vehicle getting 15 miles per gallon. That math just changed materially. Small business moving physical goods. Renegotiate freight contracts now before the full diesel surcharge hits your next invoice. Either the conflict resolves quickly and the economic damage is sharp but contained, like the 1990 Gulf War, where markets recovered in 6 months, or it drags into summer. The strait stays disrupted, the fertilizer shortage compounds into a food price crisis by fall, the Fed stays trapped. And what started as a gas price story becomes something that takes years to fully unwind, and we don't know which one. Nobody does. What we do know, the households that come through economic shocks in better shape are never the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who adjusted earliest, who looked past the gas station sign and saw wave one, not the whole storm. Ryan and Jess are going to be fine, but they're going to spend the rest of 2026 wondering why everything keeps getting more expensive, carrying that credit card balance a few months longer than they needed to, paying more for that summer trip than Maya's mom paid. None of it will feel like a disaster. It'll just quietly, persistently cost them. Maya already adjusted. She didn't panic. She didn't do anything dramatic. She just understood what was coming before it arrived. That's it. That's the whole difference. Not income, not luck, not some special financial knowledge that only certain people have access to. Just paying attention slightly earlier than everyone else and doing 5 boring, unglamorous things while the rest of the world was still filing it under annoying but manageable. Most people will spend the rest of 2026 confused about why everything keeps getting more expensive. You just spent 20 minutes understanding exactly why. The only question is whether that understanding turns into action or just into a really informed complaint at the dinner table.